In this video, you will learn to multiply by multiples of 10 using mental math, and also how to use the distributive property to solve. So, first off, we're going to work on multiplying by multiples of 10. And when doing this, we'll start with some basic examples. And here we're going to show some where you just need to write the same number of zeros. For example, if we had 5 times 10, all right, 5 times 10, you just do 5 and then put 1 0 at the end to get 50. Well, if you do 5 times 100, you have a 5 with 2 zeros at the end, which is 500. 5 times 1000, we would do 5 with 3 zeros at the end to get 5,000. And this would keep going. 5 times 10,000, you have 4 zeros at the end of 1. So you put 4 zeros after 5 to get 50,000. So that is the most basic type of problem that you might come across, where if you multiply by 10, 100,000, 10,000, anything with 1 followed by zeros, you can just add that number of zeros after the original number that we're multiplying. Now, increasing the difficulty, here, in these types of problems, we need to multiply the non-zero part, and then we can write the same number of combined zeros. So what does that look like? Well, what if we had 80 times 40? So we multiply the non-zero part. So we do 8 times 4, which would be 32. And then, notice there is a total of 2 zeros. We have 2 zeros total. So that means we have to put 2 zeros at the end of 32. That gives you 3,200, or in other words, 3,200. Let's try another example. See if you can do this one on your own. Here we have 30 times 500. Well, for this one, we multiply the non-zero part. So the 3 and the 5 we can multiply, and that would give you 15. And then the combined number of zeros would be 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 zeros we must put after 15, and that gives you your answer of 15,000. Now try the next one. Here we have 200 times 4,000. So again, we can multiply the non-zero part. 2 times 4, that would give you 8. And then notice there are a total of 2 plus 3, or 5 zeros total. So we put 5 zeros after the 8. So when you put 5 zeros after the 8, we can put our comma right here, and that gives you 800,000 as your answer. Let's try one more. Here we have 90 times 8,000. So we can multiply 9 times 8, and that gives you 72. And then notice we have a total of 4 zeros. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you put 4 zeros after the 2, put our comma right here, and your answer is 720,000. All right, so this rule is very helpful when you're multiplying numbers like this, when you're multiplying multiples of 10. And now we're going to work with what's called the distributive property. And the distributive property, we can use that idea of multiplying by multiples of 10 to do some more difficult type problems. So what if you were doing 4 times 37? Well, 37 does not end in 0 like the other problems. But what we can do is we can think of 37 as 30 plus 7. And then your distributive property says that we can take the 4 out in the front of the parentheses, we can multiply it by the 30, and multiply it by the 7. We are distributing or sharing the 4 to everything in the parentheses. Right, and the word distribute has the idea of sharing. So we're sharing the 4. It's going to be shared with both of the numbers in the parentheses. So what does that look like? Well, we would have 4 times 30 plus, and then we'd have 4 times 7. So 4 times 30 we can do quickly based off what we just did in the previous slide. So we do the non-zero part, 4 times 3, that gives you 12. And then we have 1 0 to put at the end. So that would give you 120. 4 times 7 would be 28. So we have 120 plus 28, which is 148. So this distributive property can be very helpful when you're trying to do mental calculations. So we showed all the steps here, but the idea is we can do that in your head. All right, we can do 4 times 30 and 4 times 7 in your head, and then add those together to get your final answer. Why don't you try that here with example 2? We have 8 times 52. See if you can do the distributive property for this one to get your final answer. So to do this, you have to think of 52 as 50 and 2, or 50 plus 2. And then we can take the 8, multiply it by the 50, and multiply it by the 2. We can distribute it, or share it, to both of those numbers. So we have 8 times 50 plus 8 times 2. 8 times 50 is 400 because we do 8 times 5 to get 40, and then put 1 0 at the end to get 400. And then 8 times 2 is 16. So we have 400 plus 16, which gives you a final answer of 416. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.